and even the worldwide, the Europe, America, Australia, Africa, Middle East, everywhere the situation is same. So it is an unprecedented situation wherein this generation has faced never before. The entire country, wherein the entire country has went into the lockdown state, everything is closed. So the question is, how long we will survive like this, wherein millions and millions of people depend upon daily earnings. Exactly, that is the thing, and it is the topic for the day. Whether the lives are more important or the livelihood is more important. Today, I have the members in the panel on both the sides, three members each. So, on the live side, I have Ms. Shipra Datta. She is the AVP Urban. Mr. Sahil Manhas, he is the DGM for, he is posted in Jammu Regional Office. And Mr. Ravi Shankar, he is the team leader for the JMDP Urban Project. On the other side, in the livelihood side, I have Mr. Rajashekharan K, who is the advisor for project management. And I have Mr. Mahmood Ahmed. He is the senior vice president for water and environment projects. Along with him, he has been, they are joined by another person, Mr. Ajit Singh, who's the EA2 Associate Director. I'm also glad to announce that we have judges on the panel today. One is Dr. Kazmi, the advisor for strategy and new business, and Brigadier Yogi Sharon, who is with us right now. Before we begin, sorry, somebody interrupted.
क्या बिल्कुल मैं आपको ज्वाइन कर रहा हूं है ना लिंक.
So before we begin with the discussion for today, let me set the few rules for the debate. So to start off with each team member will have 4 minutes to speak. Once 3 minutes are elapsed, a bell will ring to remind the participant that only 1 minute more is now left. And then after that, one participant has spoken from the one side team. The next turn will go to the opposite team. Then opposite team, one person will be speaking, and again the person will have 4 minutes, and this will till all the 6 people have spoken. And after that, we will open up the debate. We will also go to cross-party views, lives, and then livelihood, and then it will go on, so on and so forth. Members who are in the audience, they will be able to ask questions through the chat mode only, and I can then ask these questions to the participant. So please, whatever questions are there from the audiences, please put it on the chat mode. In the debate, the members can put across their views, and they can also refute the previous members claims or the views if they want to. So the last point that I want to mention is the members, please keep I'm talking about the audience, please keep your microphones on the mute, and in the end we will let us start with the live stream first. Miss Shipra. Shipra?
Please, everybody, please put off your mics on the mute. Again, kindly request everybody to put their mics on mute.
Miss Shipra Datta.
Please also announce the how will they judge? What are the 4 different criteria for judging them?
Right. So The four different criterias that we have set in for the debate is: one is the evidence, that is like factual evidence which are relevant to the debate, to the submission in favor of the views presented. The second criteria would be the delivery part, whether how has been the delivery with respect to the content articulation. And the third point, that is interpellation with respect to subjectivity backed by strong facts and counterfacts. And then fourth is rebuttal, how strong the rebuttal or refuting things have come up backed by these strong facts and figures of the speakers. So these are the four judgment criterias on which the speakers will be judged upon, and the teams as well. So, Ms. Shipra, I would like to go over to you if you're available online, Shipra.
Yeah.
Yeah, please.
Hear me now?
What your views? Why do you think that lives are more important?
Thank you, Gaurav. So to start with, let's look at the global stats as on today. COVID count, 39 lakhs 15,973. Deaths, 2 lakhs 70,701. India stats, count 52,952. Some say it is 56,325. Deaths, 1,783. Source, ICMR. Now, stats like these bring us to today's debatable question: lives or livelihoods? Everything has changed. Just a few weeks ago, all of us were living our usual busy lives. Now, things normally taken for granted, say an evening with friends, the daily commute, random shopping, are no longer possible. Daily reports of increasing infections and deaths across the world raise our anxiety. There is uncertainty about tomorrow, about the health and safety of our families, friends, loved ones, and about our ability to live the lives we love. It's no more a question of whether you want or you don't want. We are all thrown into a situation which is slowly becoming the new normal and which will continue to be the new normal till a long, long time. New research from the University of Cambridge suggests that there is no absolute trade-off between the economy and human health, and that the price of inaction could be twice as high as that of a structured lockdown. So basically, in simple terms, keeping the R value as low as possible is absolutely necessary to stop the spread of infections and protect lives. And should be amazed by the fact that the current lockdown in India has helped the R value to be reduced to 1.5 from 4. This means that India has been successful in slowing the spread. Now, if ever there was a golden opportunity for humankind to press the reset button regarding the unsustainable way in which we live, it is now, in the mid of global COVID-19 crisis. The pandemic has brought economies to a virtual standstill, and in the process, given clear skies and a glimpse of what the planet would be like without our species. Yeah. In 1970, 20 plague, 1820 cholera outbreak, 1920 Spanish flu, 2020 Chinese coronavirus. You see a pattern? Standing at the brink of societal collapse, it's high time we stop compromising with the very core of our existence, which is nature. So this David Harvey, in his book called The Enigma of Capital and the Crisis of Capitalism, wrote about the limits nature poses for capitalist expansion. Like him, many scientists stress that it is humans' intrusion in nature that has generated the transfer of the novel coronavirus to our species, and that unless humans backed off,
Shipra, you have one more minute left.
So that poses a question: what do we do? Answer is simple, my friends. Focus on quality of lives, health and safety. Because if there's no life, there is no livelihood. Sadly, it took a deadly virus like COVID-19 to put a full stop to our sprint, to wake us all up. Try being a minimalist. You know it by now that it's not all that difficult, is it? Come in solidarity. Each one feed one. Help if you have the capacity. And for India, it's an opportunity. Even prior to COVID-19, our economic growth was declining due to low consumption and investment level. Perhaps this is the opportunity for government to implement the long-awaited measures in the areas of infrastructure development, labor policy reforms, and privatization of state assets. In the post-coronavirus world, new
time is
opportunities
up.
will
Time
emerge.
is up.
Just
So,
one,
thank
yeah,
you.
I'm trying to write up. And more resilient business models will develop. Long-term trends such as online delivery, cloud
Your
kitchen.
time is up, Shipra. Your time is up.
Okay, so now that's an interesting statement. I would like to now go back to the other team,
Yes.
Mr. Rajashekharan. Mr. Rajashekharan.
Okay. Thank you very much, Gaurav. Thank you, Shipra. I do appreciate the statistics you quoted. I do also appreciate that if you look at what is happening around the world and what's happening in India, India is in a far better shape. I don't have anything to rebut that. Now, what I want all of us to look at is a little different aspect of what has been done. You said that, Shipra said that there is, you have to look at the quality of life in the coming weeks, and if there is no life, there is no livelihood. I want to request everybody to look at and check whether what is life, what is left in a life if livelihood is arrested and jailed. So, in my opinion, this debate should have been about the callousness of a society that thinks it can play statue with people. What happened in the fourth week of March was a children's game of statue. The magic wand of authority was waved, and presto, everything came to a standstill. Everybody was fine. Everything is fine, and the nation is fine. Except that the other India started trekking. May I remind you about this other India? The other India, whose only branding is common man. The other India had to walk hundreds of kilometers to reach home. The glare of neon lights, the incessant blare of political slogans, the smoke of inane and laughable one-liners like Zindagi ke saath bhi, Zindagi ke baad bhi. All these have dulled our senses. We rarely see the other India. We rarely hear the other India. We, the lucky 30% of India, forget that the sabji on our table is thanks to this other nation that walked all the way to their homes. Isn't it time to think how whole villages are on the move to construct buildings, roads, lay the cables, pull the power lines for the rest? They sleep in leaky tents or in the open or in the skeletal structure they build for others. Their children sells you at road junctions trivia like towels, toys or shades. But you don't see them. Isn't it time to think of this other first? Isn't it time to audit how they are living? Isn't it time to ensure how not make them lifelong migrants? Spare a thought for these millions who walked home. Why did they walk? Was it because there was a better tomorrow for them in the dusty villages of UP and Bihar? They walked because of the fear that they would not survive in the metros without work. They walked towards an illusion of home. They knew their mud huts had little to offer, but still it was home. Friends, let us turn COVID into an opportunity. When we come out of the COVID-induced coma, let us build an inclusive India. Let us resolve that we shall ensure food, health and education in the 600,000 villages. As a minimum, there shall be an efficient public distribution system, a healthcare system, and schooling for the children. Then our Annadatas won't move out of their villages. Let us earnestly take up Gandhiji's vision of Ramarajya through development of villages, and Pura, providing urban amenities in rural areas envisaged by Abdul Kalam. Let us turn away
Sir,
Sir, you have one more minute, sir.
grandiose vistas, bullet trains, mansions, and statues in the seas. We have got plenty of statues of all shapes and sizes. Why bother about statues? Let us start caring about those whose life itself is at a standstill. Take care of the 500 million Daridra Narayans. Even COVID will applaud us and walk away. Thank you.
Can I have a minute, Gaurav? I think you are the coordinator.
Yes, sir. Tell me.
Gaurav, see, when the speaker comes, he should come on the video. Shipra was throughout on the video after even she finished her debate. She should switch off her video. The next one should come on the video. That's my suggestion.
yes.
So let's go
Okay,
as
we
per
must
that.
have to keep our videos on.
Next speaker, please.
I'm sorry about that. I didn't want anybody to see my hair.
You got a lovely curly hair, sir. Don't worry.
Okay. So thank you so much,
Extremely smart.
Rajashekar ji. It was nice to hear from you how livelihood is more important, though I also believe personally. But let's get back to hear from the Lives team what they have to say. I would now go to Mr. S.T. Ravi Shankar from the Lives team. Mr. S.T. Ravi Shankar.
Yeah. I'm audible?
Yes, yes.
Yeah, okay. Thank you. Thank you, sir. I'll just start with Mahabharata. In Mahabharata, we all know Bhishmacharya. Okay, he's called Pitamaha. So we all respect Pitamaha, he was respected, revered, but he took the wrong side. Similarly, Mr. Rajashekaran, he's the Pitamaha of Rodic. He took the wrong side. Instead of talking about life, talking about livelihood. Without life, what is livelihood? So basically, I would just quote a few more things, like even the Constitution of India talks with the people of India. So first thing is, people of India is most important. When we have life, we can have livelihood. So there is a lot of debate going on what is important, why it's important, but let's protect livelihood. So why we want to go for life against livelihood? There is a big story behind that. Spanish flu, which hit in 1918, is a similar kind of a what you call surge, kind of a trend going on, which there are a lot of states in US they did some work on life, and somebody want to protect life and somebody on livelihood. The states which shut down early for life could sustain longer. The states which probably want to protect livelihood, they suffered a lot. They suffered both life and livelihood. So there is a similar trend in COVID also. The states like Italy and US, which thought they will protect the life, livelihood against life, are losing both life and livelihood. So there is a what you call kind of a learning which we are doing from that. So keeping that in mind, we thought it's more precious to have life than livelihood. Life, if there's life, there's always livelihood. Okay. Then why people are talking about livelihood. So at this stage, we have plenty of resources left at India. Our FCI has got around 85 million tons of protein 1 year. So we can always give that. So we have a good foreign reserve. We can always utilize that. It's almost $500 billion. And RBI is infusing a lot of money into the vertical banks, liquidity. We are able to use that. Okay. And government's also inducing around 1.6 lakh crore to the particular people, which is bringing out some good livelihood at this point. So India is quite rich in resources. So why are you so much bothered about livelihood? So it can always probably bring in a good livelihood provided we protect our lives at this stage. So COVID-19 is giving us a good opportunity at this point in life, because a lot of companies which were in China are probably moving out of China. So this is an opportunity, we can utilize that. Let us call the industries and which are coming out of China to India, so we can probably come out much better than what we were earlier also. This particular lockdown, so-called lockdown, has given us great opportunity. Our pollution levels have come down drastically. People, government was trying to clean Ganges for last 30 years without much effort. Now Ganges is clean. CO2 emissions have come down to rock bottom level, which will have a great impact on the global warming. The air quality is so clean and pure. We are breathing so healthy. The oil bill, which was around $135 billion, now has come to around $40 billion. We can use that extra money to probably bring in a difference in the community. The people which were in earlier, all cities are moving down to the rural areas. So there will be different economic model right now. We can work on the different model. Let us make villages sustainable on their own. As Gandhiji said that let us work for Ramarajya. So we are moving from Swaraj Ramarajya. Let us make the lives of people better at their own place where they are. So let us protect lives that will bring in livelihood. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Ravi Shankar. I'll now quickly go back to Mr. Mahmood Ahmed from the opposite team, that's Livelihood. Mr. Mahmood. Mr. Mahmood.
Thanks, Gaurav. Thanks.
Yep.
And I will start my conversation with a point which I want to rebut with Ravi. He mentioned that 1.7 lakh crore economic package has been announced by our Prime Minister, and our countries in trying to help workers and all. This is just 1% of our GDP, and will come to my discussion where I will put in figures of different countries and their seriousness about that. He is not probably know about that. When the economic package is already announced by the government, why a pregnant woman walks 500 kilometers to reach her hometown in Bihar? These two things we have to relate, and which I'll definitely conversate in my conversation. This is very, very serious situation. Lives versus livelihood is not a issue. COVID-19 is a very big issue. Lives versus livelihood is a big dilemma actually, which is hanging very, very heavily in the air at the moment. There are a lot of questions, but very few or no concrete answers from anybody and anywhere. The most pressing question is how long the lockdown would last. Even as economists warn, and a couple of our panelists mentioned that lockdown would cause even more havoc to employment, economy, and livelihood. The government's dilemma is whether to save lives or livelihood in the shorter run. So really uncertainty is everywhere with many, many questions. How long public health will be privatized over economic prosperity? Where will there be a job at the end of the lockdown? Will salary be the same? Will taxes will rise? Businessmen are worried, what to do about their employees, retaining, retrenching, what to do. Manufacturers can't decide when it would be, prudent to, start the production. These are very, remarkable, issues actually. Those with no bank accounts, no savings, no income or work are most anxious about the source of their next meal. Our colleague Raj Shekharan mentioned about the migrant workers. We have already seen it in the past 1.5 months. They are trekking almost 500 to 1,000 kilometers to reach their home. If the economic package is fine, why they are not staying in the cities then? Because they don't trust. They trust that the work is not there, and they will die without COVID-19 also. As per ILO record, 40 crore workers in our informal sectors at risk of falling deeper into poverty during this crisis. This is the April report of ILO. One estimate says that the daily economic loss of 30,000 crores per day in India during lockdown. We have to see that seriously. Of course, lives are important. We have to protect that. But in parallel, We have to do other things also. It's a dilemma in our country at the moment. On philosophical side, you see this life is quite uncertain and very cheap in our country. Most of us are very philosophical about death in India. We say it's a God wish that we have to die. Every day we are counting COVID-19 cases and death percentages. It is more sort of, repeated daily work. So, but we are ignorant of the, unfortunate non-COVID fact also. A lot of doctors, lot of hospitals are rejecting non-COVID patients at the moment. What to do about that also? In 2018, close to 1 million Indian children, that's a UNICEF report, die because of the malnutrition. 500 people are dying every day on the road because of the accident. You just Google Nitin Gadkari and road accident, you will find these videos. But nobody among us even noticed and bothered about these fatalities. It just became another government record. Probably these are very simple Indian local crises. That is why it is not noticed against these COVID-19. So we have a lot of challenges ahead. States are virtually having no revenues. Their coffers are empty. The GST compensation is not there. No taxes. Businesses are shut. From where they will support this out? They have to really see that.
Time up, Mr. Mehboob.
Some of these
Mehboob,
states
your
are.
time is up.
Time up.
Mehboob, your time.
Thank you. Interesting points. So I understand. So got your point. Very interesting ones. Now let's hear from the live team what they have to hear. I mean, what they have to say about it. Over to you, Sahil. Let's understand what is your view as to why lives are more important. The livelihood.
Thank you, Gaurav. Year 2020, May 5th, 2,51,000. May 6th, 2,57,000. May 7th, 2,63,000. And May 8th, as it is today, right, my colleague Shipra rightly said, around 2,72,000. What are these? Financial figures? Unemployment rate? No. These are total deaths due to COVID epidemic. Try and let that sink in. Meanwhile, good afternoon, Reverend judges, worthy fellow speakers in the debate, ladies and gentlemen. I am Sahil Manhas and I'll be speaking for the motion. With the permission, I would like to begin where I left you all, May 8th, that is today. As I speak, as you all listen, the numbers are going up. What you initially thought those numbers were, what did you, the audience, wished it to be, what my fellow speakers wished it to be, no human loss. Financial, economic loss, maybe, but definitely no human loss. Now, saving lives and saving the livelihood are not in conflict right now. We can hasten the return to robust economic activity by first taking steps to stem the spread of the virus and save lives. Now, any attempt to premature lifting of lockdowns will result in a resurgence of the pandemic with greater virulence. It is a tricky situation indeed, because if we keep the lockdown going for 2 months more than we need to, that's just an unbelievably costly mistake economically. Accepted? Yes. But just think, if we lift the lockdown 2 months too soon, that could be an extraordinarily costly mistake involving human lives. Now, there have been various views, pro-livelihood, pro-economic activities. Such views have also been propagated by prominent personalities on public platforms. For example, Donald Trump. He has been framing the dilemma posed by coronavirus as either save the entire US economy or tolerate a few more deaths. Of course, these statements and policies are being criticized world over. Similar views are also initially shared by UK Prime Minister, Mr. Boris Johnson, who we all know later tested positive for coronavirus, asked the British people to take it on the chin and prepare to lose the loved ones. Of course, Prime Minister later was forced to change the course, and there should not be any dilemma, like Mehmood sir said, because what to choose, there should not be any dilemma. For instance, when medical resources like ventilators have become scarce, choosing which of the two critically ill patients receives, a life-saving resource presents a moral dilemma. On the contrary, choosing between saving human lives and saving business, or say livelihood, poses no such moral dilemma. Lives and livelihood cannot be equated. Therefore, let's not perpetrate the mistakes of the past. Let me just quickly refer to a case history of Spanish flu, the flu that broke out in 1918 around the end of the First World War, infected 500 million people, killed around 50 to 100 million, no definite figures, selective release of data regarding deaths. So now COVID-19 is also being called deja vu virus. Why? Because of the stark similarities with Spanish flu. In the current scenario, if the government goes too far in prioritizing the livelihood over life, they run the risk of second COVID-19 wave, right? The second wave, that would be devastating consequences for both lives as well as livelihood. Now, what is the case? My point is to resist calls to lift lockdown until the new cases and deaths have reached the lowest point possible. In conclusion, I would like the audience and my fellow speakers to think of the days since COVID epidemic began in India. What have we all been glued to? Checking news, the stats of lives, not livelihood, lives. How many new cases, recoveries, deaths, pan-India scenario, statewide scenario, etc., etc. That this characteristic is innate in human beings, the value of human lives, not because we are directly involved, but the probability that we might get involved. Just a few days back, United Nations Secretary General Antonio Guterres said, overcoming the coronavirus pandemic will require the most massive public health effort in history, since it is an interconnected world where none of us is safe until all was safe. Last line. And all of, if I could just sum up one line, the absence of livelihood might kill people, but the presence of disease will kill people. Now, might or will, choice is ours. Thank you. Stay safe.
Thank you, Sahil. Thank you so much. Of course, lives are important. We can't afford to lose many lives. But how is a question? I would like to go to Ajit Singh from the opposite side to understand what does he has to say about why livelihood is more important. Ajit. Ajit?
Yeah, very good afternoon to Honorable Jury, my respected seniors, and my dear colleagues. With this topic, life versus livelihood, I would like to add a few more things to my previous speakers. The speakers which have spoken on behalf of lives, I support with them because the lives are very much important at each and every time, since the start of the world, since the start of the earth. And with that, livelihood is also there with the wisdoms of life on earth. So we can't rebut anybody. Apart from these, I have a very silly question, just like we always ask who has come first, whether egg or hen. So this is the question like that also. So now if we want to define livelihood, so livelihood basically what? These are the basic necessities, just like food, shelter, water, clothing, which are basic for living the life. And we all are working to live, and we are earning our livelihood just for the sake of living. All of the natural phenomena is that the lives is God gifted. We do not have any control on that. So what we have control on is the livelihood. Means if we stop working, if we stop our karmas, so we'll not able to earn our livelihood. Ultimately, we'll be led to death. So what in my opinion, what I expect is that livelihood uh, livelihood may conclude to death or life. The thing is that if suppose farmer starts stops work, if today factories may stop functioning, the transportation comes to stand still, as we have seen, because these are the scenario which we have never seen in our lives. So because farmers were working, whether the pandemic was there, means the plagues were there, other things were there, but these things were not there, because this is very means this communicable disease is very spreading very fast, means from person to person. We are scared of getting out of our home. We are scared to go to markets. We are scared to go to hospitals. Suppose if today I've got any disease or some flu-like disease, some cough and cold, so definitely there is a fear in my mind, in my heart, whether I should go to hospital or not, to go to doctor or not. That is the basic thing. And these things are related to our livelihood, because ultimately these may decide between the life and death. So ultimately what we have seen, and a lot of people have debated over most of the people, I mean the poor peoples or the daily wagers or the construction workers have fled to their villages by walking 100 kilometers, 500 kilometers, 2000 kilometers. So why they have left these metro cities where they have come for the better life. Why they have fled?
1 more minute.
Yes, sir. So why they have fled? Because they know कि in these metro cities might in the time to come might they will not able to get the means of their livelihood. So if they go to their village, so they might they can cultivate on their land for themselves and for their family also. Ultimately means we have seen many things just like we have means enlightened many things on the support of their of these workers. But if we see from the perspective of middle class or the businessman, so they are also panicking for their livelihood. Means in the long run, what Mahmood sir has stated, in the long run if we see, so we can't predict whether the livelihood we will able to save or not. So ultimately we will not be able to save our livelihood, so life will not be there.
Thanks, Ajit. Time up. Okay, so understood. Now, I have a question coming in from Mr. Adarsh Bagadia from the audience. The question is to the live stream. The question is, if livelihood is not taken care of, then crime rate will, shall go substantially. Are you guys okay with the crime rate going up? Don't you think life will be at stake with this spate of killing and riots due to inequality? Shipra, Sahil?
I guess Shipra had a time to rebut, I guess.
So
I don't know the rules. Adarsh?
Yeah.
Adarsh, can you hear me?
Yes, sir. Yeah.
Shipra had a time for rebuttal also.
Yeah.
So do you want me to rebut?
Then only the questions will come. Yeah, then you can come to the questions and
You can give your closing statement first, all of both the teams, and then you can.
Yeah, I'm just summing up and rebutting. So what Team A says is we are not against livelihood. All we say is life comes first and livelihoods will follow for sure. The point is the evolution of such viruses will not stop here. The next one may prove to be even more evasive because, as Charles Darwin taught us, everything evolves to overcome threats in its environment, and viruses are no exception. So rebutting the points raised by Mr. Rajashekharan, Mr. Mahmood, Mr. Ajit on migrant workers and fears of stepping out, our take has been clear. Reach out, help them, save them through policies, labor laws, reforms, financial laws, grants, etc. Livelihood will follow for sure if you have the reforms and helps in place. Like I said, each one feed one. Start small, start from that at least. And trust me, safeguarding lives will have far-reaching impact on the livelihood. Preventing the spread of the coronavirus before it infects more people is critical. If it doesn't hit the working population badly, the economy will bounce back. It has to bounce back. Our analysis is based on the data researches of countries that made the mistake of trying to prevent loss of livelihood before loss of lives and ending up losing both livelihoods and lives, like my teammate said. So either you shut off the economy now and have people stay at home, or you let this thing rip apart and you have people anyway staying at home. As per IMF chief economist Geeta Gopinath, we have projected global growth at 2.9% for 2019 and 3.3% for 2020, which is 0.1 percentage lower than the October estimates, which is not a bad news. Business need to conserve capital and optimize cost. These steps will help.
Time over, Shipra. A rebuttal doesn't have so much of time.
So it was 4 minutes given for
only 1 minute.
All right. So another question to the team B, that's livelihood. Without life, with whom we will enjoy the livelihood? So of course, that's a valid question. So livelihood team, without life, with whom we will enjoy the livelihood?
Yeah, sure, sir. Without lives, they will not be able to livelihood, because if they won't be lives, so how means where is the question of livelihood? The thing is that, but ultimately, if lives are there, so ultimately people depend, because we are the social animals. If we go by the definition of science, we are the social animals. We need means apart from food, shelter, water, and other things. we also depend on the entertainment. We depend on cinemas. We depend on outings. So these are also the things which are the coexistence with the life. So ultimately, which thing is important, we are unable to decide, and I can't say who can decide. The thing is that.
All right, so understood. So, okay, so moving back to the team A, lives, there's a question coming from one of the audience, Mr. Kiran Deshpande. We will all be finished up without livelihood. As the lower class will snatch our, everything, our evening, including life. So how are we going to survive without livelihood?
Can I take that question?
Yeah.
Yeah. So we are not against livelihood, like I rebutted. What we are trying to argue is life first and then livelihood will follow. So if you have reforms, policies in place, all these migrant workers and people below poverty line can be taken care of. The thing is, we are all survivors at the end of the day. And this survival instinct in us brings out the best innovations, the best human mind. So let's think together on this and come forward in helping these guys, in helping the policymakers frame policies. Let's just do that. Concentrate first on that. Thank you.
There's a question to both the teams together. How can we find balance? How can we identify, a fine balance between both sides? Because these are two sides of the same coin, lives and livelihood. So, what is your take on this?
Can you please repeat that?
So the question is lives and livelihood. These are the two sides of the same coin. Okay.
Yes.
So one has to go, together. So what is your take on this? I mean, you are being from the livelihood side. What do you have to say about it?
What the question has answer in it. It has to coexist. Life, you cannot separate life and livelihood. Life is not in our control, but livelihood is in our control. When I say our, it is not only the person, but the society also. So
don't you think so that, thousands and thousands of people are moving from one part of the country to another part of the country, when their all hopes are, got quashed out, they don't know what to do, how to do, and it was not their choice. It was you can say by force they were to move out from the place they were, living in and to the, place they belong to. So, I think, we have to have something concrete. I mean, without livelihood, life is also not possible.
That is right. So what in my opinion we should do is to have social distancing. What really helped us is the social distancing. That social distancing shall be taken as a living mantra. Every day, everybody should be talking to all the people around us to keep distance. But work, keeping distance. Continue working, keeping distance. Taking care of ourselves, taking care of our loved ones and our neighbors. Then, but at the same time, continue working. That is the only way we can move forward. If we just sit in home, closeted in our rooms, I don't think that the godowns and Food Corporation of India will have any more grains after 2 more months. So we need to come out and we need to work. Taking care of our health, we need to work.
Right. A question to the Lives team. Do you think it is worthwhile to live when people are deprived of all the basic necessities due to the shortage of resources? So do you think a life is possible, when you don't have anything to live upon?
Yeah,
Gaurav.
I think Ravi here. It is time probably you should think, what is important at this stage. Something called sustainable development, we're talking about. Now it is time to implement sustainable development. There has to be a policy shift in the government at the private level. Gandhiji had said that, there is enough for everybody's need, not for greed. We should come out of that. And there's a new economic model which must now come out, probably instead of moving from central model of working in only urban areas. We should talk about a different model of urban-rural linkage. We should think of something called Grama Swarajya. A lot of ways can work out. See, now I know it's an uphill task for all of us. We are climbing a mountain. At the end of mountain is a valley which is beautiful. So we should probably raise the mountain and face the difficulty at the moment to see a beautiful life tomorrow.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
Yeah.
I have another question coming in. The question is like, we have to be practical that we are going to lose the lives. The figure in India is going to reach in millions in another week's time.
Gaurav, please, Gaurav, 1 second. Can you take the name of the guys whose questions are there? Can you announce them? We would also like to know who all are asking the questions.
Right. So the question from Mr.
Gaurav, also you speak a little loudly because it's not able to hear me.
Okay, sir. Right. The question is from Mr. Samit Sapru. We have to be practical that we are going to lose the lives. The figures in India is going to reach in millions in another week's time. With calibrated approach, we have to look both the things. Especially, we have to first take care more vulnerable people. So this question, I think, is to the livelihood. So anybody from livelihood?
I will take. Coming back to this Samit Sapru's question, I think the biggest thing which has come out very recently. I was just looking at one of the interview of AIIMS director Randeep Guleria, Dr. Randeep Guleria. What he mentioned that COVID-19 has also attached a big stigma and fear to the whole COVID management process. So until unless we don't remove this, getting help to the needy will be very, very difficult, and the ground realities will not be quickly accepted by all. Up till now, this disease is going to be, in a very, very untouchable scales. So this stigma and fear is to be removed by the government, by NGOs, by all of us, so that we start helping the marginalized, helping the needy, so that they are also on the back of their feet, and then start moving on the nation building, and of course reviving the economy faster than expected. So we have to do that. One of the major intervention in that direction. We have to live with this virus, start our lives in a disciplined and safe mode, of course, and we should save both life and livelihood together. That's the only way.
Mm-hmm. Okay, another question to the livelihood team itself, coming in from Mr. Jogesh Sondi. He says the life is created by God, and livelihood has been created by man out of the economic activity. The question is, what is the best approach to save lives and have enough to sustain through livelihood? What is your take?
Yeah, Gaurav, I would like to take that question.
Okay.
Yeah, hi.
Yes,
so basically, to keep a balance, see, as far as lives are concerned, the restrictions and lockdown, whichever are in place or were in place, they were sufficient, and due to that, the things were being controlled. And as far as the livelihood and the economy is concerned, there's a term these days being used called COVID economy. See, it is taken from the term war economy, which refers to how a country's economic model or the production capacity and distribution dramatically switches to during a war to meet the economic needs of the time. So what we do is now this present scenario, it is being called it is being called a war-like situation. And even the chief economist of the former chief economist of the IMF said the world is de facto at war. Since we are de facto at war, I think the switching over to COVID economy on war footing would help us.
But Sahil, don't you think that to fight a war you need money, and when you need money you need to earn something, right?
That is the whole idea of war footing. Keep the essentials on, keep the manufacturing to limited the essentials. That is the whole idea of war economy. What to keep on and what to keep shut. That is the whole idea of war economy and COVID economy in this case.
Yeah. Can I, if I may add one more sentence to that? We should be concentrating on the more jobs in the rural areas. Provide more and more jobs in the rural areas so that the people do not have to migrate. I'm not saying that tomorrow morning everybody will have jobs. I don't expect that also. However, the policies should be redrawn so that the provision of urban amenities in rural areas start in earnest. And once that is clear to the people, then they will be a little more patient. They will stay back in their own villages rather than crowding in the slums around the metros. So create more jobs, but more jobs around the villages. That's my take on it.
Gaurav, I'll just add one sentence to this, to what taking Rajshekharan sir's take forward. Social safeguard, that is very important. So at government level, lot of policies have to come in place. So safeguarding them socially, besides whatever he said, of course, I agree to that. Thank you.
Okay, another question from Mr. Adish Pagadia. His question is, this question goes to the Lives team. Don't you think this is more of a paranoia? It is not more of a social media and internet pandemic in India, more than these numbers of people die in accidents and due to other diseases? I mean, look at the figures, and if you take out the records, you have,
I agree on the numbers because there are more than 1.2 million deaths happening in India every year due to air pollution, and there are more than 500,000 die because of accidents. But this is, see, the numbers are like that, but this is kind of a pandemic, and it's a global and globally being affected. I don't call it a kind of a paranoia because the deaths are localized. Probably it happens in a place, it will happen there only. There is a kind of a contagion happening because of this kind of a COVID. So the numbers are not frightening, but it might become alarming if we don't properly control that. So this is where probably I would like to end. The numbers are not, numbers are not so significant at this stage, are probably so important because it might reach a kind of a alarming proportion if we don't control it. It might go the way US is going, or probably Italy is going.
Okay, going back to the second last question asked by Mr. Madhur Gaur. The question is to the livelihood team. If we were provide two options to a person, a bag full of millions of dollars, but on the other side, a month's life, so or 20 years life. So his point of view is like zinda rahe to sab kuch kama lenge. So like one would go after the lives rather than on the livelihood. So what is your take on this, livelihood team?
Am I to understand that the question is that anyway catastrophes happen? Is that what he is saying?
No. So the question is you have two options. One is you have $20 million, with you. The other option is you take life. So which option would you take? I mean, given a choice, one would go after life, so that the person can earn money later on. So what is your take on it?
Yeah, definitely, sir. We will go with life only because what will do with the $1 million if life will not be there? So ultimately,
Question is to the
after
livelihood team.
yeah,
Question
I'm
is to the
Ajit. I'm from livelihood team also.
Okay,
Yeah,
the last
I may,
question
add-
I'll take.
I may like to add on that.
Yeah.
This question actually it depends whom we are asking this question. Who has a lot of money and then who's old or who's marginalized, who doesn't have any livelihood at all. So I mean it depends. It depends on the category. So it has to be this question has to be elaborated more. Yeah.
Mhm. Probably the last question coming from Mr. Deepak Sharma. He asked that don't you think that we have to be a little bit, this is to livelihood by the way. He asked that don't you think that we have to be a little bit of positive for at least 3 months as the vaccination may be around and not undo the work done by the lockdown. Rates could be double as India is yet to see the worst.
Gaurav, the last part was not clear to me.
So the question is, don't you think that we have to be a little bit of positive for at least 3 months coming forward? Probably the vaccination would be on the way. So we can think of, be at home and think of lives more.
Yeah, perhaps we can, provided that we take care of the vulnerable population. I haven't seen anything in that direction so far. There are still reports from Bihar, from the interior of Bihar, that people are not doing well. They have been supported by NGOs. I have it directly from the people who are helping them. That's why I am quoting. So, if we can provide the support from all sorts, everybody, if we can contribute, if we can think of them, my point is still this: think about the rest of the people, not only ourselves. Then things can happen. Perhaps 3 months or 6 months to come.
Gaurav,
further
you said
adding-
about being positive for 3 months, coming 3 months. These days, being positive is the most negative thing.
Video is off.
Yeah, I said you spoke about being positive for coming 3 months. These days, somebody telling you being positive is the most negative thing to listen to these days. So let's not be positive about anything, be it the disease or the coming days.
Mhm. All right.
Yeah, one point I want to add to this also. Just even in a month, we have seen that most of the people have fled away from here to there, just in search of food and basic things. And we have seen the efforts of government on war footing basis. Even they are not able to feed these people, they are striving for that. And so, how at this situation we can think for that if we are sitting idle at home and we are able to feed 130 crore people. So this is also a very big question because in a month we have seen the situation. If we go further by 2 or 3 or 4 months, so this is a question: ki are we able to feed? If we will be able to feed these people, or something like situation will happen. The thing is that.
Right. Thank you, Ajit. My next question probably is going to be the last question as the time is running out. And it is a very important question. We being the employees of the organization, of any organization per se. So being in the middle class domain and being the working community, the question goes to the Lives team. What would be the impact of lockdown on the private sector employees if this continues a little bit longer than already it has been longer than expected, but what if in case it continues for more days how are we going to settle this off?
Can I take that question, Gaurav?
Yep.
Okay, sure.
So, Ravi,
So
if you want to take this up, you can. Please go ahead.
Yeah, it's something called new normal has come up now. See, I mean, many companies are trying to find a way out, probably how to cope with a new problem. They are trying to find new ways of how we can probably work from home and make the employees comfortable. I mean, it is something like a situation called win-win. We should find a new way out. I mean, if this has to stay, probably we have to find a new way out. How can we make our life comfortable with the existing situation? So if this is going to stay, find a new way out, how to work and make our life better. I think, so, I mean, this is what I can say at this stage. We have to only acclimatize as things move on.
I will just add on to what Ravi Shankar ji said.
Yep.
Gaurav, if we are all survivors, right? So if you're thrown into a situation, you are thrown into a situation. We all will know how to swim across the ocean. With a little less salary, probably if there is no need for indulging in, which we've been doing till now. So maybe we cut down there, we cut down on a lot of our luxuries in life, so to say. That we'll be able to save more. Secondly, let's say you lose a job, right? Trust me, you'll find something better. Maybe there are people who I have been interacting with and they've been saying, oh, I prefer going back to my village and working on my agricultural land. So look, there is new innovation, new innovative idea which is coming up to him, which probably he or she wouldn't have thought earlier. So this new situation, since you can't do anything about it, you have no choice, at least innovate, think of new ideas, think of new ways of sustaining yourself. That's my take.
Of course, right. Very happily.
Point I want to add to Shahbaz ma'am.
We are running short of time. Yeah.
Just I'll say just only 2-3 lines, not more than that.
Yeah, go ahead.
Because we have got a very good platform to talk. So just Miss, you have put in the question that what about the private organizations and as compared to government organizations. At this point, I'm happy that I'm in the private organization. The thing is that because we are having TED Talks, we are having daily yoga fitness programs, we are having interactions with all of the Rhodesians across all over India, south to east, west, in all directions. We have the interactions. We know each other better. This thing motivating us day by day. And losing the job is not a very big thing. If you ask from some government employees, so are they having these activities in these kind of, I should say, bad situations? Are those people having these activities? So I should say I'm very happy to work with private organizations.
Great. Thank you so much. Now we'll sum up the discussion. I'll quickly go back to the Lives team and then after that livelihood team to sum up. And post that we will have the results from the judges and their opinions too. So from the Lives team, Shipra, Mr. Ravi Shankar, Sahil, please sum up your discussion.
We've already summed up, right? When Rajkumar sir asked. Okay, I'll do that.
Yeah.
So I reiterate. So how many minutes do I have, Gaurav, for this?
You have 3 minutes.
Okay, so
1 minute for each team, 2 minutes for
Sorry?
each team. Only one person from each team should speak.
Yeah. Yes, of course. So like I said earlier, we are not against livelihood at all. All we say is life comes first and livelihoods will certainly follow. And trust me, safeguarding lives will have far reaching impact on the livelihood. So right now, preventing the spread of coronavirus before it infects more people is critical. And all of us should keep this in mind. And all our analysis, what we're summing up, is based on the data researches of countries that made the mistake of trying to prevent loss of livelihood before loss of lives and ending up losing both livelihoods and lives. So I don't say shut off the economy now, but bring it down. Instead of globalizing, our take is globalizing, right? Think about environmental and social impacts of this coronavirus situation that you have been pushed into. So if just talking about some of the data that we've collected, according to Stanford University researcher, this in Hubei province, this has caused a reduction in pollution.
All
And
right, thank you.
Data,
Thank you,
50,000 to,
Shipra.
is that over? Okay, okay. Thank you.
Okay,
That's all. I
moving
would just say think about
livelihood.
it. Think about adding life to your livelihood. That's all I would say.
Okay,
Thank you.
okay, right. Thank you, Shipra. Moving on to the livelihood team. Please sum up.
Yeah, I'll sum up. Now we all know that COVID-19 could be the most abrupt shock to the global economy in modern history, and of course it will affect India as well. So there is a risk for our lives and livelihood to suffer permanently also, and there will be some irreversible damages also will happen. There is no doubt on that. But we have to live with this virus and start our lives in a very disciplined and safe mode now onwards. And there are a lot of behavior protocols from government and do's and don'ts, which are very ideal, and this should really save both lives and livelihood. In parallel, as I mentioned in one of the answers, we need to remove the stigma and fear attached to this disease. It will definitely help in entire COVID management exercise that's been stressed by the government also at this moment. While we must participate in actions leading to control of the spread of the virus and save our lives, we must really equally important actions to protect our lives, livelihoods side by side. As I mentioned, behavioral protocols will be very important, and that we have to follow it up. These migrant workers who have left the cities actually will decide, how early we can start reviving our economy. There are a lot of chief ministers who are very, very anxious what will happen to their cities and states because of these important workers who are the backbone of the economy of these states.
Thank you, Mr. Mahmood. Thank you so much for summing up. I'll now
one single line, Gaurav, if you allow. It is easier.
Please,
I will single line. It is easier to ride a tiger than to get off it.
Okay. All right. So now I would like to move to the judges. I would like to quickly go over to Dr. Kazmi for his final statement on the topic. What is his take on this? Dr. Kazmi? Meanwhile, we try to bring him on. I would like to go to our next judge, Brigadier Yogi Sharon. May I request you to kindly, provide us your opinion as to what is your take on this?
Okay, Gaurav, thank you very much. Am I audible and am I visible?
Yes, sir, you are.
Okay. Firstly, my compliments to all the participants. They did bring out very, very pertinent arguments in the favor of their respective topics. And it reminds me, it takes me back to those nostalgic days of my school, standing on a debate dais. So though they have brought out most of the points, I would just like to leave you guys with few, let's say, pointers. First and foremost is that which threat is an existential threat? Is it the COVID or is it the livelihood? So the decision of every individual will depend upon whether he's dying of hunger or is he going to die out of the disease. So that will be one pointer which you all should consider. The second is that the definition of basic needs. What are our basic needs? So that will also define that where do we stand when it comes to the fight against COVID-19. Then just think how many of us have thought of that the lockdown which happened will ever take place in our lives. It was beyond our imaginations. Could you have imagined on the roads of Delhi that not a single vehicle seen? But we did come to that when it came to the lockdown because of this COVID-19. Thirdly, also again a thought, food for thought. is the contagion spreading more faster of COVID-19, or is the speed of social media faster? Which is creating the panic in the society? Again, food for thought. And then a very good comparison by Minhas of the war economy. The war economy basically says that all instruments of your government, of your nation, are put towards the war effort. Same goes here when it comes to fighting with this contagion which presently we are facing. And gentlemen, not the last or the least, but one of the points which you all should consider is the tolerance for ambiguity among every organization or the individual to basically take a risk or a calculated risk. This will also define, I would say, define Rhotic also, that where do you stand in that risk-taking appetite for progressing your organization and along with it, adding to the progress of the nation. Thank you very much. It was a wonderful debate, what you guys did it. And I have been hearing about your various classes and all which are happening. Let me tell you, you guys are beating us. We in the army do stay a step ahead in most of these kind of crises, but you guys are almost there. Thank you.
Thank you so much, sir. Thanks a lot. I would like to go back to Dr. Kazmi, if he's online. Dr. Kazmi.
But phone मार के देख लो काजमी साहब को. What is the issue in the link or what?
My request would be to Brigadier
Sorry, this mic was mute. So what I am saying that give us 5 minutes so that we can judges can talk to each other and we will take the average of the two.
Sir, before that, we would like to have your final comments also about the discussion.
I see. Okay. This was, I must say, I'm very much impressed by the quality of the debate I heard this afternoon. It's really impressive. And for me, it was very difficult to judge and choose the winner. But somehow, there are three, we have to select 3 out of 6. So we'll come up with the score based on the criteria you have given, the weightage you have given for each. Like evidence has 25% marks, delivery has 30% weightage, interpellation has 30% weightage, rebuttal has 15% weightage. So based on that, we have taken weighted average, and we have carefully done, and I hope it will be a good judgment. So just give us 5 minutes and I'll come back to you.
Right, sir. We'll wait for your intimation.
Okay, thank you.
So audience, please wait for 5 minutes so that
Till then, Gaurav, it will be a good idea for you to cover up the questions which have been asked and they have put on the chat and you've not been able to ask because of paucity of time.
Right.
Oh, okay, I'll just request for a minute. Can I have Dr. Kazmi's number so that I can tell him the result what I have compiled?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. He's calling you, sir.
He has my number?
You're sending him, sir.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, taking on to the questions which were left out and we couldn't, put up to the speakers because of the shortage of time. Now that we have few more minutes with us, I'll take up those questions. There is a question from Mr. Raj Shukla. He is asking that, is it possible to maintain social distancing in India when during lockdown people are not following? Then how we can assume that they will follow after removal of the lockdown? basically to say that, when they're not following their social distancing right now during in the lockdown period, will they follow the social distancing norms once the lockdown is lifted over? So it's open to all. Anybody can answer that.
I'll take that.
Globally, no country is following the lockdown. So it's very difficult to maintain the social distancing. You see America, you see Italy, you see Japan. So it's up to the person whether he wants to survive or whether he wants to perish.
Also, Gaurav, I think given a situation like this, when people don't listen, it is law enforcement which should be strictly practiced. That's the only way for such people.
Okay. Next question coming in from Mr. Gurmeet Singh Bali. He asked my question to both the teams. Probably then any of the team can, respond to that question. His question is, in your opinion, what will be the impact of lockdown on private employees who is the only earning hand in the middle class family, and how employer is going to help him? Rajashekharan sir, can you respond to that?
When all is said and done, we have come out of it reasonably well. See, there is a balancing act. It was a balancing act, actually. Your expenses have come down. So your pocket is still intact, I would say. Maybe a little less heavy, but it still is very healthy. So the economic impact has not been great, but the psychological impact on many people would have been very much. People who had to stay away from families, people who are still separated, they have problems. So, but then at the end of the day, we have to survive. So, there is a justification. And once there is a justification, you accept it. But all in all, the impact is not too much, not too negative.
Sir, I would like to ask you a question, Rajashekharan sir. You mentioned during the discussion that people have been migrating, especially the lowest strata, because of the livelihood question. This is also, I've been pondering over this, question, and I couldn't get an answer for. This is something very unprecedented. Nobody could gauge out, nobody could foresee it. This is coming. And in this situation, wherein, thousands people, had to move out, given the situation, how things could have been handled in a better way, the way they have been handled.
Gaurav, I don't think that there was, to begin with, there is no point in doing a postmortem. After 70 odd years of independence, it's a pity that we still do not have a working public distribution system, PDS, in many states. And in many states where it should have been there is no healthcare system which encompasses the rural people, the ordinary people. If you take up, I was studying this aspect for a couple of days. The healthcare, the primary healthcare, every 30,000 people should have a primary healthcare center. And every 4 primary healthcare center should have another center which a referral, where there will be 4 qualified specialists and all the cases referred to from primary health care should go there. 36 states are there. Out of the 36 states and UTs, only a handful of people have got this kind of facility. Even in Kerala, which is supposed to have a primary healthcare system which can be emulated by other centers, they don't have a referral system. They hardly have one center for every 15 primary healthcare center. Almost all the states have got primary healthcare center. But do you know something? Bihar has got 1 doctor for every 30,000 people. If you can live with that, then I would say that you are not an Indian. UP has got 28,000 people per doctor. Goa has got 4,000 per doctor. Now, we should change it. How do we change it? You put more money in health sector. You put more money in education sector. You make your public distribution system proper. How much grains are lost? See, we need to sit and think and then act.
Right, sir. Very aptly said. My question, another question that is also coming from Mr. Samit Sapru. Probably I would like to go over to the livelihood team, lives team. Don't you think that media is creating more fear among people? If you look at the the statistics that says that 85% of the people who are who have been infected, they are asymptomatic. And if you see the statistics that majority of the people, they don't even realize that they have been infected, and they are they are carrying the disease, and they just have mild flu and a fever, and then they get away with that. So do you think it is not something that we should be feared for, or we should be we should be scared of, but something that with some precautions we can get away with that?
Gaurav, I'll take that question.
Yep.
Since when media has not created hype, fear, media definitely does that. It is not just about COVID-19, it is about every subject that we have, every situation that we have been put into. The point is, you have to be aware, read up, discard things that you do not want to read up. It's your positive state of mind which is going to sail you through this ocean. And that's the only thing. Be resilient. You are in a situation, you can't do anything about the situation. So you might as well read up case histories, be positive, indulge into things which will bring out the best in you. And that's the only way that you can survive this pandemic.
Friends, the score has come in, so I would request both the judges to please switch on their cameras and please talk to us and let us know the final result.
Okay, the senior judge will be disclosing, Dr. Kazmi.
Hello.
Please put
there are three trophies on table. You are 6. I am sure if I say go, you all 6 of you will run. It was a very close contest, and coincidentally both the judges gave very close marks to each other, and we averaged both, and we had little difference, but the marks are so close that very difficult to say that who is winner. Practically you all are winner, but since there was a formality, I will announce. Now, what we did that there were, as I told you, that there was different weightage for different what you call criteria. So we have taken weighted average out of, this is out of 300. And Team A scored 400, sorry. This is out of 600. 435 marks, Team A, while Team B has scored 431.5 marks. So close.
Right.
Congratulations,
Yes,
Team A.
Congratulations.
So congratulations to you all six. It was a very well presented debate, and we have individual score also, but I'll prefer not to announce because you all did very well, and that is also so close. So very difficult, very difficult. So I thank you all for participating and making it successful. It was well attended.
And sir, I'll just interrupt. Kazmi sir, don't we have any individual winners also? I think
it was not. It was not part of the. It was not part of the what you call.
Yes, the original thought maybe.
Sir, all are winners, sir. They have individual scores, but it is Kazmi sir has decided that only the team wins, and individual winners will announce.
It is more team.
Actually, my suggestion is that all the 6 participants should be given the prize because they had the courage to come up for this debate.
And
that is very right.
And you can imagine, out of 600, it is so close.
This.
With the permission of the MD, if I can tell you that one of your participants' father has served with me in the most difficult areas in Kupwara. I'm sure Sahil is son of Mr. Minhas, who was SSP Kupwara at one point of time in 96 to 98.
Good evening, sir. I remember you. I know you, sir. I know you.
So, hope the judges have not taken that criteria while giving the marks, I guess.
It does affect.
But I'll just drop in a word. The type of maybe I would be given. Maybe you all finish off, then I'll say when I have asked.
Yeah,
I should not interrupt in between. Yeah.
No. I request you to conclude, please.
I am really and thanks all the participants first of all, and big thanks for participating. And this was the first debate that we have conducted, and we are into 20th year of formation of RODIC. This itself is a milestone. This year we were thinking of hosting a big Foundation Day event, or maybe we were even toying with an idea of going abroad. But what we have been able to achieve in these 1.5 months, and we have been able to see a lot of talent within us, lot of positivity, lot of oneness, that no other event could have brought in. And I'm really amazed by the talent we have, by the positivity, by the connect people have in our organization, and which has really been for everybody to see, maybe from within the organization, from outside the organization. And for that, I have coined a phrase that RODIC has a heart which throbs. And we see that everybody, for us, we were 150, 160 people of the organization connected to it. They would all watch for what I am saying. The other, for Rajshekharan sir, which Mr. Ravi Shankar added a point as a Bhism Pitama. Yes, he has lived to the image of his Pitama for the organization, and we will be blessed by his sharing of knowledge always time to come. The one of the questions what one of the guys he had asked from, maybe it was from the Jammu team, I guess, like what are the options to an individual who has to make he has to bring a bread to the family. In the present situation, I have been getting calls from different quarters from the guys who are with us or who are not with us, or who have slight less of an input in the projects. If the company is taking care of their permanent employees, why they are not taking care of the employees who are not at full time with the organization? As again, coming back to the question what has been raised, taking care of the families, how an individual is responsible to taking care of the family. And in the private organizations we are talking of, what could be the responsibility of an organization? Let's look at like this. You are looking as an individual. I am also directly responsible for my family, that is maybe 4 members, 5 members, or 7 members in a personal capacity. But as a CMD of RODE, I am personally responsible for 2,000 people who are working with me. They are all our family. They are all my family. And I cannot say this. This cannot happen like as a guy, whoever I'm talking to. You might be having 5, 7, 8 members in your family, and you would be worried about that. The same worry I am having, equally I am worried about the 2,000 people and the families, equally families that you are all. Multiplier by that, if you see, that would be 10,000 guys we are talking about. You understand what the organization would be going. And this is, Rajkumar is not only an organization. You all, everybody is a part of the organization. Important clog in the wheel. It could be, RODE could be a wheel, but how that wheel has been invented. It is all small and big clog that is part that has created that wheel. And how do we go about it? Yes, we have to fight it positively. Both the teams, what they have said about even the life and the livelihood, why it is necessary. Coming back to, if we look at, we are finally the answer we see is yes, lives are very important, and equally livelihood is important. How do you go keep both? Has to go hand in hand. Maybe what Rajshekharan sir also said, social distancing, precaution, and the work. End of the day, work is going on. You see an example of America. They have maybe slightly bungled up, but they have again opened up everything. Because without livelihood, then again the question comes to what about lives? So with that, I will again thank everybody from the team who have opted to be part of this particular mind-blowing debate that we had. I had seen this, and what Yogi also added, you all have taken us to my school days. Thanks everybody to join. That's all from my side. Thanks a lot. Maybe others or somebody.
Thank you, sir.
That's it.
Thank you, sir.
Thanks, Gaurav. Well conducted. Congratulations to you too. It was the first debate of the debate club, and I'm sure you will take up more such assignments, and the RODE debate club will be equally active now.
Sure, sir. Thanks, sir.
Thank you. Thank you, everyone. And we should a special thank you to Hari for keeping the time and also reminding us with this clap.
Thank you.
Thank you, Hari. Thank you.
Thank you, everybody, for joining us. With this, we conclude the session for today. Many congratulations to the winning team, and thank you to the participating team, to all the members. With this, we now conclude. Thank you so much. Have a great day ahead. Thank you. Bye.
Thank you, Gaurav.
Thank you, Gaurav. Be well organized, and congratulations.
And thank you, team. And congratulations, team.
Congratulations.
Right. And congratulations, Team
Thank
B.
you.
Team
guys-
B as well.
Thank you, Sita. Thank you. Thank you,
Rajshekar
everybody.
sir, Mahmood sir, Ajit. Congrats.